This is the HyperX Pulsefire Haste, and it's a mouse a lot of people, including myself, have somehow slept on. I'm not sure how I ignored this mouse for so long, but I'm really glad I gave it a chance because it had a lot of pleasant surprises. Normally, price isn't something I focus on, but I have to highlight it here because when this mouse came out a few years ago, back then it was considered one of the best budget mice that you could get. But since then, a lot more options are available, and not so long ago, HyperX released a wireless version, so the price has gone down a little bit, potentially making it an even better choice than it already was. Now, the prices do vary a little bit depending on where you buy it from and whether or not it's on sale, but as of right now, they typically go between 30 and 50 USD. I actually got mine for just $30, and what you get performance-wise and build quality-wise is almost identical and in some cases better than a lot of other top-wired mice right now. When I ordered it, I wasn't sure if there'd be any flexing or creaking, and to be honest, I kind of expected it to have some side play and button wobble, but to my surprise, this mouse is very solid. I was able to activate the DPI button by squeezing hard enough, but despite that, it still felt very sturdy, and this is never something that would actually happen in game. But while I'm on the subject of the DPI button, it does stick out a bit more than I would like it to, and I did accidentally hit it more than a few times when I was gaming. I ended up disabling this button altogether because this was definitely an annoyance of mine. As far as the internals though, the switches it uses have to be my all-time favorite. They use TTC Gold switches, which have a very nice balance between being tactile, but yet still quite easy to press. And I think HyperX did a great job with the way they implemented these as well. There is a little amount of pre and post travel, but it doesn't feel mushy at all. I think it's just the right amount. And the side buttons are also nice and snappy. There is a little amount of post travel on them, and for some reason, the mouse 5 button on my copy feels a tad more mushy than my mouse 4, but they still feel great, and there's only a minor difference between the two. I typically don't care that much about a mouse's scroll wheel as long as it's not trash, but I will say the scroll wheel on this copy feels very nice. It's responsive, and you can definitely feel every step when scrolling, so no complaints from me. The sensor it uses is the Pixart 3335, which, although it is a budget sensor, it still performs extremely well, and I had no issues with it. Probably my least favorite thing about this mouse is the cable. It is flexible, and it does beat out a lot of cables that were on mice 2 years ago, but it's still a little stiffer than I would want it to be. It's not awful, but there's still room for improvement. I would also like to see them update it to where it sits at an upward angle. But now, let's talk about the most important feature of every single gaming mouse. The thing that ultimately decides whether or not you're gonna like a mouse. The RGB. Now, of course I'm only kidding, that would actually be the shape. And the shape is honestly quite good. If you're a fan of the classic FK style mice, there's a good chance you'll like this mouse. It's comparable to the Glorious Model O, although it's a tad shorter and slightly wider in the middle. I found it to be quite comfortable for my 20cm by 10.5cm hands. And I also appreciate the fact that there's a solid place to rest your middle finger for those that prefer to grip their mice like this. This is oftentimes overlooked on many mice, so I'm glad to see it here. When you combine the shape with the fact that it's only 59 grams, you get a mouse that's going to be amazing for many people, especially large hand gamers like myself. But as much praise as I have for this mouse, it's not perfect either. Even though I consider it to be the best budget wired mouse, there still are some things to consider, like the fact that you can't adjust the liftoff distance in the software, which isn't a huge issue, but when you factor in that this mouse has been out for over 2 years now, it's pretty clear that HyperX does not care about this and will likely never fix it. Now, the liftoff distance it has isn't bad, but the lack of customization means there will be less third-party skates that work with the sensor. But on the bright side, the stock PTFE skates it comes with are really nice, and they do include a second pair, as well as some grips in the box. So even though it's not a perfect mouse, it's still an insane value, and it's a mouse I can definitely recommend if you're on a budget.